Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. Spring training games might just be going, but I feel like I'm in mid-season form. I am Ron Luce, joined by the one, the only Mr. Tyler Edmonds on this fine Thursday evening. Tyler, my friend, first off, how are you? Second off, I've heard you have an update for us.
Yeah. So how am I, Ron? I'm just going to say that this week started off okay. Last week, I told you my issue with my dog. Last week, just in case you didn't hear last week, I am a father of two beautiful golden retrievers. Dad life. If you know, you know, dads. Am I right? And I'm a girl dad and a boy dad. So I know I've been there. Last week, our puppy, we're going through those. It's a battle. It's a battle. We're still in those battle years, and it's just getting started. Last week, the whole poop thing, that whole thing, just, yeah. If you thought that was bad, let me tell you how my Monday morning started.
Oh, boy.
So normally, our dog's got to this point. She's gotten to this point where I'll set my alarm for 5:30, but she always wakes us. It's like 4:59 on the dot every morning. But Monday morning, she wakes us up. She wakes me up to the sound of her throwing up a tampon. Yeah. She's in this dumpster diver phase. She goes through the trash, does all that. And yeah, and that's how my Monday morning started. But Ron,
Wonderful.
Today things got better because, like you said, spring's training started, and we just beat the Chicago Cubs, just beat the Los Angeles Dodgers. LA, your season is over, done, finished, right now.
Over before it even began. I like the enthusiasm.
Started.
Well, I'm glad your Thursday was better than your Monday. That is pretty rough. I can identify. We too have a pooch in this household that will dumpster dive on occasion, and also likes to wake me up at 3:00 in the morning. So relatable. I feel some of your pain here. Except
I'm with you, Ron.
He's not full blown baby energy like your pup is. So you've probably got a little worse, but. Tyler, you're absolutely right. Things did get better on Thursday because Cubs baseball is back. It felt good to see it on the television again. It was a 2:05 game Central Standard Time for those in the Chicagoland area. It was a Chicago Cubs W. 12-4 was the final. This game at one point was, I believe it was a 3-0 Dodgers lead at one point. But the Cubs came storming back. A 6-run third inning certainly helped with that. And then some late insurance runs made everything better. This was a notable game for a lot of reasons, Tyler. Not many important, we'll call them, Cubs players played. Not a lot of typical starters. Michael Busch did. He had 2 hits in this game. A good day for him. Kevin Alcantara with 2 hits in this game as well. Reese McGuire with an RBI double as a part of that big third inning. James Triantos drove in a run. Gage Workman, who was the Rule 5 draft pick for the Cubs, the first Rule 5 draft pick that is for the Cubs, he went yard, lefty off lefty, first home run of the season for the Chicago Cubs. It was not the first spring training home run, though, in total, as Eddie Rosario got that title with the Dodgers. He had a 2-run shot earlier in the game. And Cody Poteet made the start. And Tyler, in 60 years, when we're old and decrepit and our grandkids ask us, who was the first player to win an ABS baseball system challenge? You can say Cody Poteet because he won it today. We saw it in action. It worked beautifully. It's quick. It's fast. It's almost the perfect addition to the game while you still keep the human element in there. Teams get 2 challenges. If you screw up and you miss on one, you lose it. But if you keep getting them right, you keep getting 2. So that's kind of how it works. It's like challenges in the NFL where, like, if you get 2 right, you get another one. In this case, you just keep them as long as you don't get them wrong. That's effectively what happens there. So we got to see that today, Tyler. And I think that what was your thought on the ABS? Because obviously this has been tested in the minor leagues for a few seasons now. And we finally got a taste of it at the major league level. Obviously, it's only going to be used during spring training. This is kind of the we'll call it the final guinea pig trial before it could potentially be implemented in 2026 in terms of the regular season. What did you like? What did you dislike? If there was anything to dislike, and just kind of initial reactions of getting to see it almost immediately in spring training in full effect.
So we'll say I like this better personally than the automated strike zone idea as far as using that full time. I like this better because you still have the human element involved with the and that's part of both of us. That's just part of baseball talk anyway. And any sports talk is bitching about the umpires. And I feel like this still, yeah, you're still going to be able to get some calls right. You're still going to be able to fix some balls and strikes and everything like that. But you're still going to be able to have that human element, not only with the umpire situation, because he's still going to be able, there's still going to be bad calls. And like you said, you're only going to be able to choose certain times when you can use that. What's also going to be interesting when it finally gets implemented, when I'm assuming, I think they said if everything goes right, they will implement it in 2026.
Yes.
And we'll see more of it this spring training and just to see how it goes. But what's going to be really interesting is not only the human element with the umpires, but with the players as well. Because what if, I've always thought it'd be interesting, what if you're in a situation where you've got some hothead veteran guy playing on a team that's barely under 500 during the middle of the season or something, and it's early in the game or middle of the game, and maybe he's down to the last time you can challenge, and he gets it wrong. He wants to challenge it, it's wrong. And so then fast forward to the end of the game, there's a call where you're like, damn it, if such and such wouldn't have used that at that point in time, that'll be interesting too. And I guarantee obviously it won't happen this year, but if it does get implemented next year, that'll also be interesting to see too. So yeah, I like it overall simply because it still keeps the human element still in the game.
Definitely. And my dad agrees with you. He's also said that he liked it. Tyler, I liked it as well. And it's funny that you brought up the veteran example, because I was watching the game on MLB Network today. I know there was the simul call to have, like, you could listen to Pat Hughes, of course, and listen to it on the radio and this, that, and whatever. But I listened to the Dodgers broadcast. They were the ones simulcast. It was the Dodgers radio broadcast, mind you, not even television. It wasn't. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Joe Davis. It wasn't Joe Davis, but it was their radio team. So I was listening along and, paying attention throughout the course of the afternoon while I was doing some work. And they talked about how, like, they actually asked Dave Roberts, like, who's a player that you don't want using these challenges? And they're like, oh, Max Muncy, when he was up at the dish, because they're like, he can be a little bit of a hothead and think he's right sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you brought that story up, because that actually was mentioned on the broadcast today about, like, what players do you not want using it because you think they're too confident in their ability to see the strike zone.
Well, I thought that was really interesting. Speaking of the Dodgers, just that lineup alone, do you think, let's say there's some young kid that gets called up in the middle of the week to play short or whatever? I'm trying to think of who. Maybe the guy they just got from overseas, Kim.
Yeah.
Do you think a guy like him or some other young kid that gets called up or whatever, do you think they're told, hey, sorry, buddy, but we've got guys named Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman that are hitting in the top of our lineup? Those are the guys that are going to get the challenge, not you, buddy. So don't even think about it. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I think that's going to be something crazy to see. Brandon B saying, you guys are doing the show right now in the middle of the hockey game. I know the hockey game's going on, Brandon. Trust me. We were supposed to run a show yesterday. Unfortunately, Tyler was called to his civil duty. It's okay. Hey, it happens. I was watching the game leading up to this for what that's worth, and it has been a hell of a hockey game so far. This tournament in general has been great. Brandon, if you want to hear more about that, we actually talked about that over on Four Feathers. We had a very extended segment about it. It was great, though. It's been a good game so far. I can't have it on both. Otherwise, my stream won't work. So,
gotcha.
Otherwise, it'd be right here. But I'm I'm bearing through it. I know it's 2-2, or at least it was 2-2 the last time I checked. Neither here nor there.
It still is.
Okay. But I agree with you, Tyler. Like, I think that's would become a piece of a game plan of like, hey, you know, I think the way that teams could combat that, to what you're saying, is as a part of the game plan, because right, you get like, you have the umpire scorecards. Hey, this is an ump where he really likes to give, you know, let's say it's the inside or the outside to, you know, certain players, or, you know, or certain calls, right? Maybe he's really bad about reading curveballs off the plate or something.
Mm-hmm.
Then you say, hey, everybody's got free game, but it better be a curveball off the plate. And if it's not, and you're wrong, you're going to get your ass chewed, especially if you're a young guy. So I think that's something where it would become, I think, a part of the game plan of saying like, hey, you know,
I think we'll see that game plan more playoffs.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Absolutely.
Sure.
I think you'll still see it during the regular season, like during certain series when they know they have a certain crew.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, watch, because you might get some bad calls off the plate. That's where you should really be looking to maybe utilize your challenge if it's off the plate. I think there will be some of that kind of, you know, back and forth where teams can almost use it as a part of their game plan. And I think that would make it really, really successful overall, and you know, and keep things moving. We certainly appreciate Brandon jumping in. He's got a comment. I'm gonna hold it for a little later because it's appropriate to discussion for later. But we'll keep things moving. So ABS was a success largely in the Open here in the spring training, but we also got to hear from Justin Turner for the first time. Cubs made it official today that he has signed. Obviously, reports broke earlier in the week that he had signed. You can read over a little bit more on that over at ontapsports.com or wherever you listen, read your favorite publications. He is in the fold. He's wearing number 3. He was already out there. He's already joking with Cubs fans on Twitter about being slow. Like he's ready. I think he's invested. He's in. We heard the reports that he turned down more money to join the Cubs. He wanted to come to Chicago. Again, it really is just different at Wrigley as a Cub. If only that the team could answer that with money, but that's neither here nor fucking there. But he's in. He's ready. He seems excited. He spoke to the media a little bit. And Tyler, the last time you and I were on a microphone, we had talked a little bit about Justin Turner, but more in the sense of he was the plan B to if the Cubs missed on Bregman. Well, the Cubs did miss on Bregman. He went to the Red Sox. We're going to come back to that in a minute because there's some other drama and shit that has stewed over in Boston since that acquisition. But now that Turner's in the fold, he's been taking reps at first. We really haven't seen him do anything at third. So it really does feel like he's kind of the answer behind Michael Busch. And then that makes John Birdie the answer behind potentially Matt Shaw at third. Now that you know the number, $6 million plus some incentives, I think that can take it up another $2.5 million. So it could be like an $8.5 million contract for one season. Now that you know all the information, Tyler, do you still feel the same way? Do you feel better now that it's not an apples for oranges comparison as a plan B for Bregman? And it's just, hey, we went and got this guy and he's going to make our bench better and he's going to give us better depth. Where's your head at now that that's official and everything's kind of played out since last week?
So when I found out what the price was for Turner, and I think I said it earlier, maybe the day that they signed him, I don't hate it for $6 million. I don't. And like you said, if Cubs fans are looking for, and I've seen it a little bit here and there where people are like, oh, well, now this guy will be a backup for Matt Shaw and blah, blah, blah. If you're looking for that, if you're looking for that guy that's going to be a backup for Matt Shaw, that's not happening. Like you said, the dude, I think he played 7 games. I think he's played 7 games at third base, maybe in his last 2 seasons. And coming in at his age 40 season, that's not going to happen. But if you're looking for a guy, a veteran hitter that's going to put up quality major league veteran at bats, a guy that's going to basically be like a hitting coach, because Nico's talked about it, Dansby's talked about it, other people have talked about how they are excited and ecstatic to have this guy here in this lineup, a guy that's been there, done that. He murdered this Cubs team in 2017. I mean, Ian Happ was there. He murdered. I just remember in 2017, I hated every single time. I did not want him coming up the plate. Now, is he that guy in 2017? No, but I still think, and he had a good second half last year and everything like that. And so maybe there's still something in the tank. Are we going to get some big 20+ homer season? Probably not. But basically a guy that can maybe rub off on some of the younger guys, maybe rub off on a guy like PCA, maybe help out Michael Bush a little bit, and maybe even Matt Shaw as well and other players. The one thing that bugs me about this, and it's nothing with Justin Turner. It's nothing with Justin Turner even being on this team. It's not that. It's the phrase, and it's even a deeper conversation that we talked off air and that we've talked in the past. I just can't stand the phrase of, well, Justin Turner fits their budget. I hate that term. I can't stand it. I just want to vomit when I read it. If you know, it's just one of those, oh, well, after just everything that's gone on this offseason, and it's happened. I've heard it a lot. I've seen it a lot on Twitter, just the whole, well, Justin Turner, this move fits their budget. And it's just like, come on, really? You just I don't want to hear that. I don't want to even think about that. But as far as adding a veteran guy, a guy that a lot of guys on, and I'll listen to other shows and stuff with former players, and all they say about Justin Turner is he is a veteran guy that people gravitate around. And like you said, he's very talkative and very interactive, and he just seems like a guy that can help build chemistry.
Definitely. I agree with you. When you get into the he's in the Cubs budget and all this nonsense, that grinds my gears as well. Mm-hmm. But when you say this guy's good for a clubhouse of young players that are going to be asked to do a lot this year, let's be honest. Oh yeah, young guys were asked to do a lot last year, and we saw the resurgence of guys like PCA and Miguel Amaya in the second half of the season, and what that meant to the Cubs and them kind of hanging around in the playoff race, despite, again, another really bad May for the second year in a row and some really bad misfortune with some injuries and things like that. This is the type of guy, though, like you said, that can come around. Maybe he can help, especially in spring training right now. Some of these guys like Kevin Alcantara and Owen Casey. And I've got an idea on them that I was pitching to you in the warm-up that I want to discuss a little bit later. But I agree on that aspect. Like when you're just talking, he's like a vet's vet. He's a baseball player. He's the guy that you want in the clubhouse
for
1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%. It's a good move. I think at the end of the day, it's a really, really good move. And here was just a couple of quotes really quick from what Justin Turner had to say, because as my dad drops in, he says he likes that they signed Turner, especially after hearing his interview. He's a great situational hitter. In addition to that, he said, the place is rocking and rolling when the Cubs are good, and we intend on being good this year. And that was just his thoughts on, Wrigley. And then he followed it up with another quote that said, at this point in my career, the most important thing is going to a place that is going to win and that wants to win. So
and you can, at his point in his career at age 40, I don't see why that wouldn't be true. As far as that last sentence you just said, at age 40, the dude can ride off into the sunset. And so that is one thing that a lot of people say, that most guys that sign, that's what winning's my number one thing. But a guy that's 40 that can hang it up right now.
Yeah.
You've got to how can you not believe that?
He's got to believe in what the Cubs are trying to do. And that's big. That's huge. I think it's at least a little bit of a tip of the cap for the fans. I think to say like, hey guys, I could, like you said, I've made my money. I've won championships. I've been on some really good ball clubs. I've had some incredible years. I'm looking at his Baseball Reference page right now. I mean, this guy had a stretch run from 2013. Well, we'll call it 2014, pretty much once he arrived in LA, all the way up into and including last season, where he was at least 14% better than the rest of baseball. 155 OPS plus, 139, 121, 150, 151, 130, 133, 120, 120, 114, 114. Like, he's consistent. He's been really good for a long time.
he started his career, was it with the Mets, I believe, or was it the Mets or the Orioles?
Orioles, and then he had a
And
stretch run with the
and
Mets for a
just
few
didn't
years.
have good luck with both the
Mhm.
Orioles and the Mets, and then just figured it out with LA, man, and then just
Flourished as a Dodger.
literally turned his life around. I
Yeah.
mean,
He had multiple seasons in LA. I'm doing the quick math on the top of my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons of at least a 3.5 WAR.
yeah,
That's
crazy.
incredible. Like, he's good ball player, really good ball player. I agree with you, and also the swagger during his media interview with the backwards hat and the big shades was fun too. I think he's gonna become really loved by Cubs fans this year.
Oh,
It's
for
just
sure.
like one of those veteran guys who he's gonna be a great soundbite all season, and he's probably gonna have a couple of great moments where it's either a big homer or a late pinch hit situation, something that's gonna help the team win a few games.
What do you think?
That alone is gonna get people excited about him.
I know we didn't bring it up in the pre-show, and you may be asking this next. I was just going to ask you real quick. What do you think about, because to get Turner, they announced it today. They DFA'd Canario, right?
Alexander Canario, right?
What do you think?
I think it's funny. Joey was really hoping to be on the show tonight because he had a lot of thoughts.
He's always been a Canario guy.
He's been a Canario guy, and he was a big Nelly V guy. And this is the exact same. Like, I don't want to use the term death because it's not a death, obviously, but like if we're talking about a Cubs tenure, it's the same. Like, it's this. He's dying by the same sword as Nelly V did, which is that you just get shipped off because there's no room for him.
Exactly. I feel like they were both in the same situation where, and you could probably argue that Nelly V maybe had a couple more moments than Canario did.
The grand slam against Seattle being the most notable.
It's just with Canario, he has all this. He had a lot of potential, and we just really didn't get a chance to really see that. Part of it's not his fault because, like you said, the outfield's booked. I know. I believe. Did you write? Was it you that wrote an article about the possibility of Canario playing first base?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they just thought with their, hey, let's get this guy in Justin Turner who's proved it and done it. And sorry, Canario. Hope, who knows? Maybe they can still work a trade with somebody. Maybe somebody out there picks them up and figures it out. It's just like you just said with Nelly V. It's just a tough situation where he didn't develop. Maybe he didn't develop as fast as maybe they wanted him to. Not to say you can't develop, not to say that he can't be that guy somewhere else. It's just in this time right now with this team where they're going, it just wasn't going to fit. Hey, Papa Lou said it best.
A prospect is a prospect until they're no longer a prospect. Yes. And I will say this about Canario in comparison to Nelson Velasquez, because Nelly V was like kind of a one-hit wonder in the minors. He ascended very quickly to AAA, kind of plateaued there, got a cup of coffee, didn't really pan out. He's been okay with the Kansas City Royals, but like
I was about to ask, is he still with Kansas City?
Yeah, he's still in Kansas City. He hasn't stuck on full time, but like he's seen a decent amount of playing time in KC.
Okay.
The thing that hurt Canario the most was him playing Dominican in the Dominican Winter League after his incredible 2022 season. That's what really killed him, because he had that monster 2022, right? He gets acquired in 2021. Obviously, he was a part of the Chris Bryant trade. He was the second piece along with Caleb Killian that came back for KB from San Francisco. 2022, he leads the minors, the Cubs system in homers. He had 38 bombs that year. The only player that beat Matt Mervis, because Matt Mervis had that huge 36 home run year, right? So he ascended over multiple levels. He played 3 different levels for the Cubs. People were looking up. And then he had that nasty injury running to first base in the Dominican Winter League, where he destroyed his shoulder and his knee because he fell awkwardly. And then he missed most of 2023. That's what really killed him, because had he not done that, I would argue he was in line to probably get some time in 2023 as either a fourth outfielder or a DH, and then have that ability to finally kind of show off some of that power and see what he can do, right? But ultimately, at the end of the day, Canario just he had a lot of injury misfortune. I think that's what really killed him in the long run for the Cubs was he just got hurt and he never really rebounded. And now it's a full outfield, especially with the acquisition of Tucker and, with everything that's going on as well, with a guy like, there he is.
I don't know what just happened. I don't know.
I don't know what happened either. That was wild.
Like everything just shot. Okay. Anyways, yeah.
That's okay. No, I was just going on a rant talking about the injury with Canario, and I think that's what ultimately really just kind of derailed him.
For sure. Yeah.
So, again, they can still certainly trade him. If he doesn't get claimed off waivers, which I think would be crazy if somebody didn't at least give him a shot, he can still go back to AAA and still be a part of the organization. He's just not on the 40-man anymore. So it's not over yet. Like everybody thinks like, oh, DFA, they're gone for good. Most guys, yes. Canario's case, probably not as simple as that. But I definitely think it was, I think it was just the Cubs saying, look, we need to, they're getting to that position, Tyler, where they have to start picking and choosing who stays on the 40-man. And Canario was far less valuable in the 40-man than the likes of Kevin Alcantara, for sure, or in the future, an Owen Casey, or you got to open up a spot for Matt Shaw because he's not on the 40-man yet, right? True. There's a lot of those pieces that they need to keep in mind right now at this point in spring training of like, he's probably just the odd man out. And that's the unfortunate nature of baseball being a business with a guy like Canario. But I agree. I think a very shocking move to a lot of people. I saw a lot of very shocked responses amongst Cubs fans throughout social media this morning when that news broke. But again, speaking of Justin Turner coming to the Cubs, this was all essentially the quote unquote backup plan of not getting Alex Bregman. And we finally heard that the Cubs were not horrendously competitive, but they gave a decent offer. It was a 4-year deal. It was like $115 million. In fairness, nobody was going to go to what the Red Sox gave him on an annual basis. Houston offered him I think it was 6 years, like $156 million. Like Detroit gave him 6 years. I think it was 170. Nobody was going to give him 120 over 3 years. Let's just call it what it is. And there's a little bit of deferred money involved. So Bregman gets a great outcome out of it. Good for him. He got paid. I know Scott Boras is probably elated because of the nature of he can opt out if there's an opportunity. If he has a monster year, I don't think that's going to happen, but you're guaranteed $30 million a year or $40 million a year for effectively 3 years of service. Hard to beat out on that. But at the end of the day, Tyler, it spewed some shit out of Boston because now the rumors are Rafael Devers doesn't want to move off third base. Well, Alex Bregman just won the Gold Glove in the AL for third base, and Devers was arguably the worst player in the AL for defensively at third base. Then you factor in Tristan Casas saying Rafael Devers is my third baseman and Bregman should play second. And it's a whole shitstorm because, and in fairness, people might be like, I'm glad that dropped in the comments, Tyler, because we can kick the tires on your thing. We're going to come back to that in a second. We can talk about it after all. And we can quickly put it to bed as to why it's not going to happen. But drama has ensued in Boston. And we can talk a little bit about Boston because former head of pitching, Mr. Breslow, is now over in Boston. So there is a Cubs connection.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
But what are your thoughts on this whole shitstorm? Because Alex Bregman's a great get for the Red Sox, but now it's creating a lot of noise that the team doesn't want.
When that first came out, the first thing I said was it would be a real shame if Boston and Devers could not get along and Boston ended up trading Devers to Chicago. Just a real shame. Honestly, when I saw that though, I don't, and we'll get to how we'll get to the Cubs Devers.
We'll get to that relationship here in a second.
Yeah, I'm not technically. You can't technically blame. I don't think you can really blame Devers. It seemed like he kind of. I don't know if it was a surprise to him, but you got to look at it this way. And a lot of other Red Sox people were saying this as well because they were also linked to Nolan Arenado. And so that was what was going on. But as we all know, with trades and everything like that, half the time they're just rumors anyways. So
Right.
I can understand in Devers' mind, hey, I'm the third baseman. I've been here. I've been the guy. You guys are paying me right now a lot of money. I'm the guy. This is my team. That's my spot. Even if he is the worst player defensively at that spot, in his mind, he's like, it's my team, my spot, my position, everything like that. I play third base. And it was funny if you watch the interaction of just like, he just said, nope. No, when they asked him about going to DH or first base or anything like that, he's no, I play third base. I'm like, oh boy. But
You
what
don't
was
play it
really-
well, though.
Yeah, exactly. And Bregman, it's funny because what Bregman said about all this is exactly what Tristan Casas should have said. And what Tristan Casas said is what something that Alex Bregman, if he wanted to, could have said. But Tristan Casas, it's almost like you see this and you're like, damn, we thought at least our guys aren't doing that right now and stuff like that. You look at it from an outside perspective, not even involved. Like it's almost like, well, it's almost like parents with kids or dogs or anything like that. And people that are watching right now that have dogs and they hear my stories with Maple and my puppy and they're like, whoo, man, gosh, at least ours ain't that bad, right? It's kind of like that right now. But with Casas, I can understand, okay, the part about him saying Devers is his third baseman, I get that because he plays first base. And he knows in his head, he's probably like, hey, first base is mine. So I don't want to say that Devers is the first baseman because that makes me look like I don't want to play first base. But what was crazy was when they asked him about when he made all the comments about all the other young guys that should be, whether or not they should be called up, and he says no. And it's wow. But anyway, so, and I'm sure everybody's heard all that and everything like that. But what I got to thinking with the Devers news and the Devers let's just say in a hypothetical world, and I asked you this earlier, but you completely just ruined my dream. But I'm going to ask you.
I didn't ruin it.
You didn't ruin it. You're right. You didn't ruin it because who knows? Maybe they change their mind next year or the year, or whatever. I said it would be such a Tom Ricketts thing to do to trade with what's going on right now in the media with Ricketts and the budget and spending and breaking even and Ken Rosenthal blowing him up any chance he gets. If you haven't, just look up Ken Rosenthal and Cubs anytime this offseason. It's crazy how much he's really
a bit of a bloodbath.
He really has. And so anyways, I said it would be such a Tom Ricketts thing to do to trade for Devers. If the Devers and the Red Sox couldn't get along, Devers is like, I want to get out of here. I'm done. To trade for Devers to avoid paying for Kyle Tucker. And
because then he could say, well, look we're paying this guy who's already
paying a superstar. We needed a third. You guys said we needed a third baseman. I got that. He's a generational hitter. What do you guys want from me? What you want this and now you want this and that? Come on. And I can. And so when I first saw that's one thing I thought of. But then you made a good point with his contract.
Yeah. Well, we looked it up. We looked it up together because I said, oh, what does Devers make per year? And Devers is going to make anywhere between 29 and 33 million dollars a year for like the next 8 years. It obviously fluctuates a little bit. Think the Seiya Suzuki contract, right? He was making 21 one year. He's making 19 this year. Like it guys make a little bit more, a little less depending on the year. However, Devers has $75 million in deferred money over the 10 years after the deal dies. And we all know how Tom Ricketts feels about deferred money because they're already shitting their pants over $7 million that they're paying to Jason Hayward and John Lester still, let alone the 7.5 per year you would pay to Devers for 10 years after the deal. It's not happening unless they change their tune.
Happening.
It's not happening. It's just not happening.
And just to agree, just to agree with Papa Loose here, I agree. I would definitely, I'm not saying I would want Devers, I would definitely want Tucker over Devers.
I want Tucker over Devers as well.
for
Tucker
sure.
Tucker at least plays better defense.
Yes. And
Devers
honestly,
is a liability.
I think
defense.
offensively, I still think he's offensively, somebody could argue that Devers may be a legit better pure hitter, but I just feel overall offensively, Tucker's going to give you the better production just because of the stolen base value as well.
True. I agree. I think that's a piece that gets forgotten about, especially in today's MLB with the new rule changes, how much guys being able to run can factor in. Because that's something we talked about just a few shows ago about how this team could, as a team, steal like 100 bases this year if they really wanted to, amongst like four players.
I think Tucker's projected at 21 bags.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's what
Shaw could probably steal 20. Nico can steal 40. PCA probably can steal 50 if you really give him the opportunity to do so. I mean, you factor in Bush and Happ maybe giving you 10 to 15. Swanson can maybe give you 15.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole team can swipe. Even Seiya Suzuki could give you 10 bags in a season if you really need it. So, I mean, this could be a team that, maybe they manufacture some more runs this year, running a little bit more because they have a full lineup of guys that can actually do it. Speaking of the outfield and Kyle Tucker.
Yeah.
We got onto a discussion actually stemming from what we just talked about with Devers and the whole idea of him coming to Chicago. My counterpoint to after we looked up his contract was, well, at that point, if you're Tom, you might as well just pay Tucker and take just it up the shorts for the average, what it's going to cost per year. Because here's at least the thing the Cubs could do with Tucker. And because of today's spring training game, which I'm going to get back to, there's a few comments regarding it today. So we will certainly return to it after this, before our final talking point here in the show. But Kevin Alcantara played. Obviously, Owen Casey is currently shut down. But Kevin Alcantara played, had a good day. 2 hits, drove in a run. He's wearing number 13, right? Because he's kind of a big leaguer now. Now that he's debuted and he's actually played in baseball games. And obviously it's a new number for him because I don't think he wore 13 at the end of last year. I think he wore something different.
No, I believe.
Or was he wearing 13 last year when he came up?
That was Bodie's number, right?
That was Bodie's number, right? So that's what I was thinking. I was like, I think 13 is a new number for him.
Yeah.
I think that's a new number for him.
Which, by the way, we did see Bodie today.
We did. We saw him play first base for the Dodgers today, which was fun. But I think in the long run, there's the reason I believe the Cubs haven't moved off of any of these top outfield prospects is for one of two reasons. A, the Cubs are not going to pay Kyle Tucker, and they're going to need an immediate answer in right field next season. So it can come either via Owen Casey or Kevin Alcantara. And then moving forward into the future, then you don't necessarily have to pay Seiya Suzuki. Then maybe you just bring back Ian Happ, whatever, right? There's a whole different dynamic if you go that route. The other dynamic is Ian Happ will be going into his 32, turning 33 season once he becomes a free agent. Seiya Suzuki will be right along that same track in terms of age.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those guys are up in 2 seasons. So you got 25 and 26, and then they're free agents.
Yeah. Who's
to say that maybe the Cubs look and say, you know what? Kyle Tucker is the answer for us. He's the future. He's the guy. We want him to be one of the faces of this franchise for the next 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
We're going to give him the $45 to $50 million a year for the one season that it has to overlap with Ian Happ and Seiya Suzuki, and just eat it up the shorts for 1 year in the luxury tax in 26. And then you let Happ and Suzuki walk. You get $40 million of relief from them leaving. And then you got Kevin Alcantara and Owen Casey as your DH and left field options at $850K a year, and then arbitration controlled for 4 seasons roughly.
And like we were talking about earlier, hopefully at that time, PCA has developed into that guy,
that 4 to 5 WAR player in center field,
that dude that we've been hoping that he is. Yeah,
agreed. There's a lot of elements to it.
I like it.
They certainly could trot out a young outfield of players that
They could.
is supported by Kyle Tucker being there. And maybe later in his career, Kyle Tucker moves into doing more DH stuff.
Mhm.
And then you got the young guys playing in the outfield. So be it, but at least you have that talent still there. And I think that's a large reason why the Cubs haven't moved off of some of those guys, is because they're starting to weigh those what if possibilities,
Mhm.
depending on what happens post 2025. So
Yeah.
something to keep in mind. That was a thought that came to my mind a little bit earlier today. And then we got onto that topic and it kind of flourished even further of why I think these guys are still sticking around. Again,
One more quick thing about Alcantara, and I asked you
Yeah.
earlier, and I'm sure a lot of people are wondering it too. Is Alcantara? Do you think he wins that fourth outfielder spot, or are you cool with him being that fourth outfielder, or would you rather see him in the minors to start the season off?
I know how you feel about this. I'm going to answer just how I feel about this. I think he
Mhm.
will be the fourth outfielder potentially at some point this season.
Yep.
I think there's a real world where, like, by June, he could be that guy. But I think in reality, and I think today's starting lineup told us a lot, Vidal Brujan started in center field.
Yep.
I think they are fully prepared for Brujan to be on the bench and be able to be a fourth outfielder of sorts. Because really, if we're being honest, the fourth outfielder is technically Seiya Suzuki. So really, it'd be your fifth outfielder.
Yeah, true.
So I think the Cubs would be totally okay with Brujan being that guy for April, May, maybe even June, letting Alcantara get every day at bats, because let's be real, he's not going to get a ton of at bats if he's that fifth guy
No,
right
no, he's
now
not.
in the state of this outfield. Let him go be that everyday guy in AAA. Let him play every day in Iowa. He's going to see guys that are borderline major leaguers in Iowa. I think that's the best bet for him. But I hope he has a good spring, and I hope he takes that and applies it into the regular season, because
For sure.
this is a guy that, you know, over the years of us doing Cubs on Tap, Juice got to see him in his backyard when Juice was out in South Bend.
Juice has talked him up to the point where I'm
Yes.
convinced. I'm convinced on Alcantara being a dude, and
Yes.
I want to say Juice. That's probably been almost 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
But
He's a guy that's going to be intriguing to keep an eye on.
oh, for sure.
So I think for that reason, I think they want to see him play every day, and that just requires him being in Iowa at this point.
I agree.
So
I agree.
that's
I would rather see him crush it in the minors, just build his stock up even higher, and instead of just watching him ride the bench for most, or at least early in the season. And if he is playing early in the season, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but if he is playing early in the season, it's bad because that probably means somebody's injured.
Yeah, agreed.
Which
Agreed.
sucks. I mean, you're
it
happy
means
for Alcantara.
it means one of Ian Happ, PCA, somebody like that's hurt. Because
Yeah.
Alcantara can play center field.
Yeah.
Mind you, he's actually played a lot of center field. So this is a guy who can play all three outfield spots.
For
So
sure.
I think
And-
I agree, in a pinch, he's probably your first guy up. If you
And
really
worst
need
case
to.
scenario too, maybe he builds himself up high enough, this season in AAA that I mean, I do like your idea you talked about earlier with the outfield, but maybe he's that guy that come trade deadline, there is a frontline guy, a frontline starter, just something that, maybe the Cubs are wanting, or just something.
Tariq
Maybe,
Stoops.
and maybe he's that guy that maybe gets offered or they ask for, or something like that. Or and again, that's not a bad problem either, to have a guy like that in your minors that's worked up high enough to where that's who you got to give up to get this high caliber player. Not to say that they would do that. I'm just saying, that would be better than him just sitting on the bench, getting in a bat here and there in
Definitely.
the majors.
I completely agree. I want to come back to one quick note about the spring training game, and then
Mhm.
we'll talk about the media update, and then we'll go back to the spring training game, because there's another comment that I want to come back to kind of round out the show. Because there's a lot of people in Cubs, I guess Cubs X, we'll call it, that we're on the same page today, and I feel like that's a good way to round out the show. But Scott from Iowa asked a little bit earlier, any news on Bobby Miller? I haven't seen anything, but I mean, he walked off under his own power, which is super encouraging, super scary situation. I mean, that's like the worst nightmare of every pitcher in Major League Baseball.
It is.
I think
I think
every one of these guys will tell you they would rather have Tommy John than take a ball to the head.
Yeah.
especially
Especially
in
for a
spring
guy
training
like
game.
Bobby Miller, he just had surgery last season, right?
Yeah, he was
He
shut down
played
early
early.
because of an injury. Yeah.
He played early. I remember the season before, everybody was like, this Bobby Miller kid. Fun fact, I work with a guy here in Kentucky. I'll see him tomorrow at work. I work with a guy that actually went to high school with him. It's crazy because we were, I want to say last season when they played the Cubs, he just messaged me and said, "Yeah, I threw a little such and such on Bobby Miller just because." And then he told me, "I was like, holy crap, that's pretty cool." But it just sucks, especially for that guy, a guy that had so much potential, that had a good 2023. He was caught up in 23, right?
Yeah, I think he got a cup of coffee in
Looked
23.
good, got banged up a little bit to begin last season, and then you
Yeah.
get taken out with an arm injury, and then you're coming back, and you're not even thinking about a freaking line drive to the face. You're at least in my opinion, you're probably thinking about, hey, is my arm gonna, you can do all the side pins and everything like that, but that first outing, even if it is just sprinting, they're probably, hey, I want to get this, I want to get this in, I want to get this maybe not necessarily over with, but I want to get my first steps in right now coming off this. And just to have that happen, man, that sucks. That really sucks. So it was good. Like you said, it was good to see him walk off on his own, and hopefully everything's all right. He's not the only guy that got took. I want to say, didn't Pete Alonso get a line drive to the face today in BP?
Maybe. I don't know. There was
I
a
believe
lot
I
of
saw that. And I think
a lot of
he
crazy
walked off
shit
too.
going on. Yeah, a lot of crazy shit going on. So hopefully Bobby Miller's okay. I think the worst part about it too, if you're Michael Bush in that situation, is like you were teammates with this guy because they were both
Yeah,
coming up as farmhands in the
that's
Dodgers
right.
system. So like he's got to feel awful, right? Like nobody intentionally does any of that, right? Like
No, I
it
know.
happens. You square up a ball and sometimes it's going to go right back at the pitcher. Like that's the nature of the game, and we've seen it happen, and it doesn't happen a horrendous amount, thankfully, but like it happens enough where it's still scary when it does.
Oh yeah,
It
for
was
sure.
still good to see him jump up. He went
Especially
back.
considering how hard he throws too.
Oh yeah, and that ball is coming off just as hard, right? I mean, that's the terrifying thing. So it was good to see him come back. I know he sat in the dugout for a little bit because the Dodgers radio announcers did a great job kind of keeping people updated. They're like, he's still in the dugout, he's still hanging out, and then he finally went back to the clubhouse after. So I'm sure they were just like making sure he was nothing immediate, like, oh my goodness, your nose is bleeding or something like that, right? Just to make sure physically he was okay. And then they're like, all right, let's go take you back. Let's just go check you out, make sure everything's cool. I'm gonna hope that no news is good news for Bobby Miller. And then that, maybe he's just like in concussion protocol for a few days just to make sure he's cool. And then hopefully
I'd
he
say
gets
that's
right back out
probably
there.
automatic.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
Just
Scary
be
though.
safe.
Certainly something that he'll have to, hopefully there's no yips involved, man. Cause like it's something that people, could
It is,
legitimately deal
especially,
with.
yeah, it really is, especially again, and in today's baseball, when you've got so many guys like a Bobby Miller that can hover around that 100-mile-an-hour mark, it's scary, man. It's scary.
Yeah, that ball's coming back at you at 113, 114 at least, probably,
Yeah.
if not harder. Scary shit, but hopefully he is okay. We got a Team USA. It's going to overtime for
Hey.
the World Cup. I know it is for those diehard hockey fans that are watching along with us. I believe I heard correctly. This will be IIHF tournament rules, not round robin rules, which means it will be just a 5-on-5. Think Stanley Cup playoff rules for overtime. It's not the 3-on-3 overtime. It's going to be full 5-on-5, full period, essentially first goal wins. So we could be in for a long night, which would be awesome. God, like a 6 overtime game. Not realistic,
That would
but
be cool though.
like a 2 or 3 overtime game that ends at like 12:30 in the morning, though, would be kind of fun. I would genuinely enjoy that. I don't think the NHL would, because then all their players would be gassed coming back when they start games on Saturday, but it's neither here nor there. You got to love it for the fans. Hey, they're doing laps around the NBA, so I'm sure they love it as well. Tyler, let's talk about the one last piece of big news that we wanted to touch on here, and that is news really as of today. ESPN and baseball are going through a nasty divorce after the 2025 season. There will be no more Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. They're going to figure it out from there. If there's going to be somebody else that takes it over, a way 5 seconds in the U.S. wins. Holy shit.
America.
Is that real? Hold on.
America.
Hold on. We're checking mid-air. This is what we do.
Where were you during the Cubs on Tap podcast when America defeated Canada in hockey when the world was watching? Not only Cubs on Tap, but the USA Canada hockey game. Where were you? I'll be able to tell my kids that I was right here. I'll be able to tell Maple when she's older, I was right here.
Hang on.
Right here.
They go to a full intermission. My dad's just predicting. I don't think they can physically win 5 seconds in. I think even the Hawks' fastest goal in team history is like 8 seconds into a game. So got our hopes up.
Wow.
A little premature.
I didn't jinx them. I didn't.
No, nothing happened.
No, I didn't.
They're the Zambonis. The Zambonis are cleaning the ice right now. We have nothing going on.
Shoot.
But Tyler, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. I mean, this was something with baseball tonight and with everything like this was a staple for a lot of us growing up. Like you and I, a lot of baseball fans growing up, like this was a staple of Sunday nights during the summer was ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Like the voices of like Joe Morgan, right? Like the 2K baseball games
Chris
you play,
Berman.
like that's what you associate with. And now
the little the music and the background music and all the highlights, all of it, yeah.
And now talk about a fall from grace. And I'm going to take those words directly from a good friend of the program here at Cubs on Tap, Mr. Cody Del Mendo. A fall from grace for ESPN and baseball, and it's kind of a shame because Sunday Night Baseball used to be, in my opinion, appointment television, and then I don't even think Sunday Night Baseball does every Sunday anymore. At least in recent years.
I honestly couldn't tell you now.
And it's a shame. It's a real shame.
It really is.
Because Sunday Night Baseball used to mean something, so many iconic voices. And, maybe it was something that ran its course and it was beautiful, but not all great things last forever, as we know. And now they'll move on. Way too early prediction, Tyler. Amazon Prime takes over Sunday Night Baseball.
I think some Amazon, hell, I don't think Netflix wouldn't, would they?
I hope not.
I don't know.
They did fine for NFL, but everything else sports-wise they've ever done is an absolute shit show.
I will give them credit on WWE. They have really done well with that. But anyway,
they have with Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And so anyway, but I follow a couple of accounts of guys that used to work with ESPN, and they made it sound like this was something that they weren't surprised with. And I'll give ESPN credit with this on their Sunday, on their broadcast, even up until their last one. I will say they always did a great job with the sound. It sounded like they had a microphone literally everywhere.
Yes.
Whether it was in the cup ends of the bat or in the freaking throat of the umpire. They did a good job with that. Other than that, though, when your program Monday through Friday, your talk shows, everything like that, has nothing to do, doesn't have not even a 30-minute segment on baseball, what do you expect? It's just, and it sucks to say that because like you said, as a kid, where I live, we had TBS, WGN, so I could watch all the Braves and the Cubs games. And then you had ESPN. You had Sunday Night Baseball with Joe Morgan and a guy from San Francisco. Why is my mind going blank? If you heard his voice, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Joe Morgan and whoever.
I can hear it in my head.
Yeah. That was just our childhood. That was something you looked up. You just enjoy. And then even late at night, even after that, you'd watching the baseball tonight for an hour and the just all the updates and stuff during the day. They'd show their clips. And so, yeah,
Don Miller.
Don Miller. Yep.
John Miller.
So it sucks. They'll also be wondering. So now who gets the All-Star game and who gets the home run derby? Like, will they still do that? Or is that Fox?
I don't know. That's a great question. Scott had a quick comment kind of on this topic. He says he hopes Fox/FS1
Yeah, I wouldn't
Fox
hate
Sports
that
1
because
takes
they
it over,
do.
and they have a double header every Sunday to protect the national broadcast on Fox in case of weather.
I wouldn't hate it if Fox took it because I've enjoyed what FS1 has done with baseball. They've done a great job with baseball with just the I guess you could say the limited time they've had with it or whatever. They've done it.
Sure.
I've really enjoyed listening and the guys they have on and everything like that. Yeah, it's been great.
I was
It's
gonna say
just
I've enjoyed the commentators that Fox has utilized in national slots. Len Casper has done some national work, which as Cubs fans, I think we all appreciate the hell out of getting to hear Len on the television again. They have done a nice job.
I enjoy listening to A-Rod talk about baseball. I love listening to him talk about hitting and everything like that. I enjoyed Frank Thomas when he was on there, David Ortiz, rest in peace, Pete Rose. But not to turn this into a Fox thing, there is a clip out there of Pete Rose, Frank Thomas, and I believe it's either David Ortiz or A-Rod. They're talking hitting in between segments for probably 10 minutes. Find it. Watch it. It's freaking awesome. But yeah, I wouldn't hate it if Fox took that spot. But yeah, it's just like you said, like Cody said, like other people have said, it's a fall from grace, and it sucks to see because that's your childhood right there. That's some of your memories that you grew up. That's what you grew up watching baseball on.
Hell yeah. 100%. 100%.
But yeah, now that we've said that, it will be interesting to see what happens with the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Sorry. I forgot. It runs through 2025.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they'll get it this year. I guess just next year.
They'll get it this year. Right.
Yeah.
It's a 2026 and beyond question because it's a post 2025 thing. But still, the reports of who will get it will probably come out before the baseball season.
Oh, yeah,
ends.
for sure.
So with that in mind, it's still a storyline that we're going to be keeping an eye on, right?
You don't think Apple would you?
You're on to something. They already have baseball.
No, I've just never been a fan of their broadcast.
I completely agree.
I can't stand the way it looks, and I can't half the commentators. It's guys that have. It's almost like they too are in the process of learning about baseball, and they're trying to tell, Joe Random who just came to Earth and has never seen baseball, and they're trying. It's just. Yeah, I can't stand their broadcast.
Scott with a fun idea here in the comments. He says to save money, he wishes they would let the home broadcast team just call the game on national television.
Yeah.
That would be fun because I think you would get more. It's tough because you got to give the flowers to the guys that do national because they're that good to do national, right? Like the reason that being one of the voices that does NFL football is so big is because you are a national audience. Like, that's why it's such a big deal. Like NFL is the only sport that has a completely national television setup. Yeah. And so to be one of the select 12, 15 play-by-play voices that do it is a big deal. I think it's the same way with baseball to a fault, but I think it would be cool because you would expose the rest of the country to these local television guys, Obviously, a guy like Boog is a little different because Boog does the radio for ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, right? But like, it would be cool to hear Boog on the television for a game because people would be like, "Oh, I associate him with Sunday Night Baseball, like that's normal," But then, like, you could expose a younger broadcaster who maybe is just getting their feet wet with a new team. That could help their career take off because more people get to hear him. So. Again, I'm not going to go down the broadcast.
Who's to blame just with this ESPN and baseball parting ways? Who is to ultimately blame for that? Do you blame? Is it ESPN for not promoting that product Monday through Friday on the shows when basically all it ever is football and LeBron? Or do you blame Rob Manfred for, hey, you didn't push it enough? Do you blame, the viewers were down, nobody watched it or anything like that? Who do you point the finger at right there?
I think you point the finger at both parties.
Yeah.
because clearly there was something failed on the side of baseball that ESPN didn't want to keep the relationship healthy. But at the same time, you can make the same argument on the other side that ESPN put all their kind of apples in a basket with being more NFL, NBA focused rather than MLB, NHL focused, for example. Now they have to be NHL focused because they have media rights share with Turner. You know, it's them and Turner now that own the split of the NHL media rights. But, you know, they outside of Sunday Night Baseball and then the All-Star game, like ESPN really didn't have a lot to do with baseball. And I wonder if just over time it wore down and
it sucks because the All-Star, just that All-Star weekend, that's the best All-Star weekend out of all the sports. Like when you take all the All-Star events from each sport, like we all just watched. Well, I didn't even watch it. I just saw clips of whatever the hell that was with the NBA crap. That was just a garbage display of whatever that was.
While we're on the topic, you know who crushed it? The NHL, because instead of having an All-Star game, they did the Four Nations face-off.
Yeah. So and maybe that's and but again, the MLB just has the great for a sport for a time in the middle of July when nothing else is going on, so everybody's watching. Oh, this is what we're watching for the next 2 days. They do such a good job of just throwing that out there and just everyone just getting that wow factor out there, and for that to have, for that to be like that, and for now, like you said, with the information coming out today, with them just parting ways, it just, that sucks.
It does. I will say this when it comes to ESPN, all of these decisions at the end of the day come down to a dollars and cents in business decision. And it clearly wasn't worth the money that ESPN was putting in for them for what they were making out of it. And that, I think, is where you can point back to Rob Manfred and not selling your top players appropriately. And hopefully that changes. I think baseball is improving in a way of that because of the names of guys like Shohei Ohtani and, the other superstars in the sport. I think it's going to improve, and I hope it does for sake of the game. But at the same time, with that in mind, right? Like
it'll be interesting next year. It'll be interesting to see. So basically now it'll make you wonder whether or not can they even talk about baseball next year.
They can talk about it. They just won't have any broadcast right.
Gotcha.
So anything that they talk about would have to be implemented into a show. So like in the Sports Center, for example, that would just have to be a part of Sports Center. I'm sure regular season, unless something astronomical happens, they probably wouldn't touch on baseball a whole lot. I think it would be more so like playoffs in the World Series where they would be more invested in covering it from kind of a national media lens. Tyler, I have one final thought here. We've worked our way through the laundry list of topics to talk about here. I do want to talk about this because I felt this way coming into the game today. And then he delivered a big homer, and I felt even better. And then I had to share it publicly. But Gage Workman had a day today with his spring training game. 2 hits. One of them was the homer. Lefty bat. Turned a couple of beautiful double plays that started from the third base side. Ironically, both against Teoscar Hernandez, which was kind of funny. A couple of 6-4 threes. This is a guy that, again, I think because of the stock that the Cubs utilized in getting him with a Rule 5 pick, which means they had to add him to the 40-man. I think Gage Workman might be that guy in spring training that I'm keeping an eye on the most because I think he has the most to gain from a great spring and the most to lose from a bad spring because he's already on the 40-man. So you can make the argument that he is maybe the favorite to win that kind of platoon because he is a left-handed bat, a platoon spot behind Matt Shaw at third. He also, I think, can play a little bit of second. Like he can play kind of your left side mid infield in a pinch. Maybe he's the guy that sticks on as one of these bench bats because he had a great day today and he hit lefty off lefty for the homer and it was an Oppo Taco on top of it, I believe.
I mean, if he can continue to show, I know today it's the first day.
Of course. You can't overreact.
I was going to say he homered off Reese McGuire. Is he a guy that's even going to be playing? And who knows? But if he can continue to show this kind of production, especially just with the defense at third base, then it would be a nice little competition to see a guy like him and maybe a few of the other guys that are fighting for that bench spot, that bench infielder spot. And if he can just continue, like you said, if he also plays, what'd you say, second?
I think he can play a little bit of second.
You know, if he can show a little bit of versatility, yeah, it wouldn't be a surprise to see him on the opening day. Maybe, win a spot.
Yeah. I mean, again, him being on the 40-man is huge. I think as long as he continues to play well, he'll stay on the 40-man. And then who knows, right? Even if he doesn't make the team necessarily straight out of camp, even if he's in Iowa, being on the 40-man, like, you are the first guy up.
They've got their eye on you. Yeah.
Right. You're the first guy up, and in the event of an injury, you're the first guy up when they need something different. Like, you are that one of the top call-up guys. So I think that's going to be a fun thing to keep an eye on. I said something about it. A couple other people did as well, Cody being one of them as well, too. So I think a lot of people are on the same page about, like, hey, Gage Workman is going to be an interesting name to watch in spring, because if he has a really good spring, he may have just played himself into maybe taking away a roster spot from either Vidal Brujan or John Birdie in terms of opening day roster.
Yeah, maybe.
And I think that makes things interesting, because Brujan is super flexible. Obviously, Birdie is a stolen base threat, can play both corner infield spots. So all these guys have something that's going to help the Cubs potentially win games this year. It's just going to be who out, kind of battles, one another to get that, the spots essentially at the end of the day. Scott says here, insert Lou Brown saying he is hitting homers off of a guy bagging groceries in a few weeks. And that was in reference to what you said with Workman today. But again, I think, the fun of spring training is we know who the starters are going to be, right?
Yep.
We pretty much know who's starting at every position outside of arguably maybe Matt Shaw, right? Like, if he has a horrendous spring, maybe he doesn't get to start right away, and they just kind of piecemeal their way through April at third until they feel like Shaw's ready. Regardless, there is still elements of the roster that need to be situated, and that's the fun of spring training that we're going to see. Again, today was just game one. I'm glad we got to get a show in right around the start of actual games. The Dodgers and Cubs are going to play again tomorrow, Friday. That one will be in
they
Mesa.
Want to play again after today. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Wow,
they do.
Okay,
and it's going to be in Sloan Park. So they're doing a little home and home action here over the first 2 games. Expect probably more guys that you'll actually see play meaningful innings in a Cubs uniform this year, because it's anytime the Cubs are at Sloan Park, that's when the vets play, and anytime they're on the road, all the young kids play. That's just how it works in spring training. So they were at Camelback on Thursday. They'll be at Sloan Park on Friday. So expect some bigger names to be in the lineup. I believe it's Friday.
Tony Gonsolin and Jordan Wicks.
I believe it is Jordan Wicks.
Which it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting, obviously, to see Jordan Wicks, but it'll also be interesting to see Tony Gonsolin, just because he's a guy. I want to say just 2 seasons ago was one of their top starters, and if
he was a monster.
I was about to say, if he shows any signs of that, that's just another guy they're going to add to that 19-headed monster they have in their rotation, or however many it is. And so that'll be kind of interesting to see too.
It sure will. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. What makes it exciting, though, the Cubs will play a new opponent on Saturday. They will play the Chicago White Sox, and
they still have a team.
They do.
Wow.
They do. It'll be a friend of the program, Justin Steele, making his spring training debut against the White Sox on Saturday afternoon. So we will be back a week from now. Hopefully this holds everybody over until then. We're going to work on getting some guests on between now and pretty much the opening day. Can't promise how many it's going to be. I will take full responsibility for the lack of guests to this point. But nonetheless, we're going to try to get some of our friends that we have established in the world of Cubs baseball on the show here over the next couple weeks. Have some great conversations. Some of them might not necessarily be live. If it just comes down to it, they may be pre-recorded, and then they'll kind of premiere after the fact. But we're hopeful of some good content here between now, which is February 20th, and the Cubs open in Japan as of March 18th. So about a month between now and the start of real baseball, at least for 2 days, and then a couple more days of spring training. It's coming. It's coming quickly.
Coming around.
5 weeks from true opening day, which is March 27th, which is Ron Luce's birthday. So that'll be a beautiful birthday present.
Your birthday's
baseball
March
fandom.
27th?
It sure is.
That's my mom's birthday.
Oh, would you look at
Happy
that?
early birthday, Mom.
Happy early birthday.
And you too. You too,
Mama
Ron.
Edmonds. Thanks, buddy. Well, you will see me the week after because then we will have
will.
Wrigley opening
will.
weekend,
I'll
which
be
will
there.
be very exciting. You'll be in town for that. Joey will be there as well. The expectation is Juice, Nick, potentially even Bobby will be there in addition. And then, of course, friends of the program will be there as well.
It sounds like
Our boys
there are
Kyle
a
and
lot of
Dom will
people
be
coming.
there. Yeah, it should be a good time. Steve may even be there
Yeah,
as well.
I think Steve's coming. I think Steve's coming as well. Yeah.
It's going to be good. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll do a lot of great content. My goal this year is to take more video than some years past and put together something fun that we can put out on the YouTube of just kind of the weekend that will be when it comes down to it, when the Cubs open at Wrigley Field on April 4th is the official date, that Friday. Tyler, you got any quick final thoughts before we kind of shut this bitch down for the night?
Quick final thoughts. It is baseball related. This Saturday, February 22nd. Support your local baseball card shops. It's Topps Hobby Rip Night. And I'm helping my dad do his first Rip Night at his shop. I'll post a picture or two. We have
do it.
I've been working on that for the past month or so. It's been a lot as far as renovating everything like that. But yeah, if you're a baseball card guy, basketball, football, whatever, and you've got a card shop in your area, go check it out, support them, because it is the official Topps Rip Night. And yeah, it's just gonna be cool to see what people bring in, see what they got, and see if maybe maybe we get maybe somebody pulls a one of one Kyle Tucker card or something. That would be cool. So
That would be sick.
I'm looking forward to it.
Hell yeah, man. As a card nerd myself, albeit an expensive hobby, but a fun one.
It is. Oh my God. It is.
It's an expensive hobby, but it's a fun one.
Hobby. Yes.
It is fun though. But I will say, when it comes to cards, I've got a little local card shop literally like around the corner from my house. It's taken everything in my being to not step in there right now because there's a wedding to pay for. But as soon as I got fun money, I will be in there, because I'll tell you what.
As a guy that stands behind the counter, talking people into getting cards, Ron, wait till you get fun money. Definitely. Definitely.
I will wait till I get fun money. I know I've done enough baseball card trading in my life. I've got a surplus of cards sitting at my parents' house still that I need to pick up. It's a fun hobby, but it's an expensive hobby. I will say this though, speaking of Topps, there is a Topps Chrome NFL card out there that I want, that they recently confirmed was actually a real card
in the new Topps Chrome football.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Chrome cards are a part of, obviously, Topps. They have autograph cards in there. I don't know if anybody saw. It's Chicago related, but Caleb Williams and Jim McMahon, both Chicago Bears former and current quarterbacks, did a Topps commercial together where like McMahon is the autograph coach for Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams was like practicing in the commercial, and then McMahon's like, all right, I think you're ready. And he's like, I'm ready for inscriptions, right? It's not just autographs anymore, numbers, inscriptions.
Oh yeah.
So then he starts writing stuff like, let's go Bears. And they're like, no. And then he writes one that says Green Bay sucks. And McMahon goes, I like it, but no. And then he wrote another one, and then they're like, yay, it's perfect. Topps actually took it, like somebody screenshot it and was like, this is amazing. And Topps confirmed that the Green Bay sucks Caleb Williams card is in the Topps collection.
Oh, again, yeah.
And I want it so fucking badly that like if I pulled it, it would make potentially, like from a card collecting standpoint, it would make my life. Because it just says Green Bay sucks, and then it's Caleb Williams autograph.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So
that's awesome.
The card nerd in me is very excited at the possibility of that. But that's awesome. But yeah, support them. It's a Saturday that, unless you're like a diehard NHL fan like myself, where there's 15 games on Saturday, there ain't shit happening at this time of the year.
Yeah.
Right? It's spring training baseball, and that's about it. So Head over
And
to
hey,
those
some of
shops.
them, I will say, some shops, depending on location where you're at, obviously right now, as far as baseball wise, obviously right now, probably more in Arizona and Florida,
Mhm.
some shops are having superstar appearances.
So be on the lookout. Be on the
And
lookout.
yeah,
Absolutely. Love that. Beautiful plug. Speaking of plugs, Tyler, want to remind everybody, Cubs on Tap, 1 or 2 shows over here covering the Cubs at On Tap Sportsnet. Still give love and support to our friends over at the Dingers Podcast. Mitch has been doing a lot of solo shows right now, but they are still putting out great content. Mitch actually just had a conversation the other day with a new friend of ours, with Kyle over at the Setup Man.
Yep.
Awesome stuff. Be sure to go listen to that. We're still hopeful to talk to Kyle at some point, hopefully before the season. If not, maybe during the season, we'll have him on and get to talk to him more. We got to talk to him a little bit at CubsCon, which was awesome.
Yeah,
and
he's super nice.
yeah, it's just great to actually meet these guys that are also putting
yeah.
out content. We talked a lot of great content ideas with a lot of Cubs. We'll call it Cubs Twitter X space with Setup Man, with the Locked On Cubs guys, especially with Mr. Matt Cozy. A lot of good conversation was had at CubsCon, especially on that Friday night over at old Lizzie McNeil's. So it was a good time. Hopefully we'll get to see those guys here on soon. But again, go show the Dingers guys love at Dinger Cubs on the socials. Give us a follow as well at Cubbies on Tap on the socials. I am at Loose on Tap. Teddy Freddy 270 over here from Mr. Tyler Edmonds, and you know the drill. Follow all the rest of the crew. You know the guys is at this point. And if you don't know them, head over to where you listen to your favorite podcasts. It'll be in the podcast description. You can find everybody there, and you can follow them directly from the episode itself. As always, Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks. You know the drill. We got it all here at On Tap Sportsnet. And Cubs fans, it's that time of year again. You got friends that are Southsiders. I got friends that are Southsiders. Send your friends to our friends, and they can be friends over at Sox on Tap. I think Team USA lost, is what I'm just gathering.
They just did.
Wah,
But you know
wah,
what?
wah.
You know what? We beat the Dodgers today. Okay?
We did. It's true.
We
Hey,
beat the Dodgers, and we're gonna do it again tomorrow.
Team USA loses.
No,
blames Tyler,
no.
but the Cubs won. The
That's
Cubs
true.
won.
So blame me for the Cubs winning. I'll take that.
There you go. We'll blame you for the Cubs winning. As always, ontapsportsnet.com, at ontapsportsnet on the socials, the OnTap Sports Network. Go and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. We will be back with you next week. More Cubs news, action, fun, hopefully maybe even a guest when it's all said and done a week from now. But spring training's back. Games are actually happening. Tune over. Today's game was on MLB Network. Tomorrow's is the first on Marquee Sports Network. So if you have access to Marquee, go over there, check it out. Go ahead and give it a listen. I believe it'll be Boog and JD, I would imagine, on the call. If it's not them, there's a good chance it's hopefully soon to be friend of the program, Mr. Alex Cohen, who we got to talk to at CubsCon a little bit, on the call, now that he is the official kind of second in command voice to Boog when Boog is unavailable. Tyler, what do you say, my friend? We get out of here the only way we know how at Cubs on Tap?
F the Cardinals.
And according to Scott, it's F Canada as well. But nonetheless, let's go Cubbies.